This is the quiet fire, a space for what men never say, but always feel. A place where desire doesn't need permission, where memory breathes through the skin, and truth whispers through silence.
It didn't begin in lust, did it? No. It came like a whisper from a language your body remembered before your mind had learned to name it. You were young, maybe 9, maybe 11, sitting cross-legged in the sun or standing in the soft shadow of someone older, someone kind. Maybe it was the breeze brushing your thigh through thin shorts, or the glance of a teacher who saw you as good, not in trouble, not a burden. Maybe it was the weight of your friend's head dozing on your shoulder during a bus ride, the warmth of skin through cotton, the way his breath slowed, and for the first time, you didn't want to move. You didn't even know you had a body like that, a body that could rise, not for wanting, but for recognizing. It was strange, gentle, quiet. You felt your stomach pull in, your breath catch. You looked around to see if anyone noticed. They didn't. The world kept moving, but something in you had changed. It wasn't about sex. You didn't know what sex was. It was about aliveness, contact, something blooming in your hips like a secret flower unfolding without permission. It was confusing, tender, and it wasn't shameful yet. Not yet. Not until later. In that moment, it was just yours. A signal, not a sentence. You didn't ask for it. It wasn't from touching or teasing or being bad. It came because something in your body said yes to the world. A yes that had no words, only heat. And for a brief moment, you were whole, erect, innocent, and whole. No one had told you that this was sacred, that it was truth, not sin. So you held your breath, crossed your legs, and said nothing. But your body never forgot. It still remembers the first rise, not as hunger, not as need, but as a quiet doorway opening toward the beauty you hadn't yet learned to fear. Somewhere along the line, it changed. That quiet signal, that warm pulse of life, became something else, something watched, measured, demanded. You were told, maybe not in words, but in smirks and stares, that your hardness had to mean something, that it had to prove something. And suddenly, this sacred surge in your body became a test you didn't know how to pass. It happened fast. In the locker room, where the boys barked jokes too loud and everyone was pretending they weren't scared. At home, when your body reacted and you didn't know where to put the feeling. In front of a screen, when the only place you were allowed to be curious was in secret, with the door locked and the light from a phone or a laptop burning into your skin, like guilt. What used to rise like a soft yes became a weapon you were told to wield. Be ready, be big, be hard, but not too soon, not in public, not in a way that reveals tenderness. Don't feel, just perform. And when you couldn't, when your body went silent under pressure, you blamed yourself. You buried the shame. You gripped yourself in the dark, not for love, not even for release, but for a desperate kind of control. You stopped breathing. You tightened your jaw. You learned to get off without ever getting in. And still, deep down, some part of you knew it was never meant to be this way. Your erection wasn't supposed to be a performance review. It wasn't supposed to be a scoreboard. But no one told you that. They just told you to be a man. And so, you hardened. Not just in your body, but in your heart, in your throat, in your choices. You began to associate arousal with danger, with rejection, with trying not to cry in the middle of being touched. And now, even in moments of softness, you sometimes flinch. Not because you don't want connection, but because your body was trained to see desire as duty, and duty as a burden you carry alone. But brother, it didn't start this way, and it doesn't have to end this way either. Now, you're older, maybe bruised, maybe beautifully undone, but you're here, and something in you is ready to come home, to remember that your erection is not a command or a contract, it's a current, a signal of life, not lust. It is not owed to anyone, not even yourself, and it does not demand performance, it asks for presence. Sometimes it arrives in a moment of silence with a friend, when something deep inside you feels safe enough to unfurl. Sometimes it pulses during grief, during joy, during stillness. Not because you want to do something, but because you're finally feeling everything. This is sacred eros, not the chase, not the conquest, not the click and scroll and vanish, but the fire that lives in the roots of your spine, the hum that says, I'm alive, and I want to be touched, not consumed. Your erection is not an enemy. It's not a malfunction. It's a guide, a compass, a teacher. It shows you when something resonates in your body before your mind can catch up. It's not always about sex. It's about truth. When you feel it now, you don't need to hide it. But you don't need to prove anything either. You can breathe into it. Lay your hand gently over your belly. Let it rise. Let it fall. No story. No shame. Just breathe. And if you're ever lucky enough to be with someone, man or woman, who meets it with reverence, not fear, you'll feel what it was always meant to be. A bridge. A threshold. A return. You've been taught that your power lives in what you can control, but your true power lives in what you can feel without collapsing. So let it rise. Let it speak. Let it guide you back to the parts of you you never meant to abandon. Because this hardness, when held with presence, becomes the doorway back to your softness. And this time, you get to stay.
If this stirred something in you, let it live. Let it breathe. Don't rush to name it. Don't rush to kill it. Let it exist. And if you want to go deeper, if you want to follow the heat, you'll know where to find me. Until then, burn quietly.